But another part of it is, and I wish she could have been here today, Lucia Colombaro is doing some development work for us, and she has put together a campaign.
Oh, great.
And it's called, because Crossing the Waters is a direct outcome of the interfaith pilgrimage in the Middle Passage, right?
Well, of course, yeah. That's...
So we're looking at the 25th anniversary.
Yes.
That is coming up in 2 years. So we're calling it the 25th anniversary legacy. And trying to get people, hopefully people that have deeper pockets than our regular donor base. So we put together a group of names of specific people. A lot of them are former advisors to the pilgrimage, and some of them are former pilgrims, and a couple of our hosts who received the pilgrimage and were really moved by it, and still keep in touch. Asking them to partner with us for this 25th anniversary legacy.
That's such a great
program, and there'll be we're put together a don't for angels. So we have the Middle Passage angel. We have the everything that's related to the pilgrimage. You know, that language. Periodically, we will keep the angels abreast of what's next. So right now, we want the money to get established in South Africa, because Crossing Waters is all about making the connection with the United States and the African diaspora.
Exactly.
Okay, and so to kick it off, we need to get to South Africa, get those programs up on their feet, sign that contract with the community center and the city of Cape Town. So now we have a base, okay, for our cultural programming with the U.S. And then another piece that's going to go along with this 25th anniversary, we're leading up to a big celebration, is Amai and I want to make a film.
Wow.
About the pilgrimage journey.
Oh, that's
and that will
such
be
a good
premiered
idea.
at the anniversary. So are you ready for this? I'm going to let Amai tell you this. Where we're going to hold the anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we decided the other day, we were just talking, about what are we going to do, for this anniversary? Where should we have it? And I was like, well, I think we should have it in Ouidah, Benin. This was like a pivotal place during the Middle Passage pilgrimage as we were making our way. So several things converged. There was the supreme priest of the Vodun people, Dagbo Hunan Huna. And so help me with the dates, Ing. This must have been
1992.
92? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He began to go down to the water and call across the water for the descendants of the stolen ones to return home. At the same time, our sister Claire Carter from the New England Peace Pagoda, Nipansan Miyohoji Buddhist order, Japanese Buddhist order, was in Sri Lanka on one of the peace walks that they do. She got a message from the ancestors that said, you do wonderful work out in the world, and you have not yet done anything about the hardships that are happening in your home country. So she got the vision for the Middle Passage pilgrimage. However, she wanted to do a walk from Africa to the United States, and so she called Ingrid, her good friend, and asked her if she would help, assist her in bringing this pilgrimage.
Wait,
Ing said,
Sister, I just want to get this right.
Mhm.
You said that I thought that you came up with it was Sister Claire who had the idea. I never knew that.
That's
Oh.
the story.
yeah.
That is so interesting. I mean,
That's the
Wow.
miracle of the pilgrimage, because
that's the connection.
Mhm.
I had only
Oh,
connected
illumination.
with Claire. Maybe I knew her for maybe a couple of years,
Yeah.
but I became a Buddhist, and the Peace Pagoda was my faith community. I was working in New York doing a summer program at the School of Engineering at Columbia, and I got a letter from Claire because I had come home to Amherst for the weekend, and there was a letter in the mail from Sri Lanka saying, I have to talk to you, and I'll be back on this date. I need to see you as soon as I get back. And so I went home on the date that she was arriving, and well, that weekend when I had off, and she came and she sat in my living room until like about 3 o'clock in the morning. We just talked, and she says, we need to address racism by going to the root and look at slavery, and we need to do it with people of African descent and people of European descent, because that's our combined history. But Ingrid, I can't lead it because I'm a white woman. We need either an African or someone of African descent to lead it, and I'm asking you to do it. Go.
I am blown away.
So she told me this story, how she was walking the Sripada, Mount Sripada in Sri Lanka, and she was walking with the Sinhalese and Tamil, because they were the warring factions at that time. And she said all of a sudden it was just like, she said, it wasn't a voice, it was just something came into my head. You need to be doing this in your own war-torn country.
Yes.
So that's, and then I named it, because the Peace Pagoda, all of their pilgrimages are interfaith, the interfaith pilgrimage of peace and light. You know, actually that one in Sri Lanka was called Peace and Light. And so I said, oh, interfaith pilgrimage of slavery? No. Interfaith pilgrimage of Middle Passage. And so, but she got that vision the same year that Dagbo, that Amai was talking about, was making the prayer on the beach.
Wow.
He was making the prayer on the beach for the descendants of the stolen ones to come home. Now, Sister Claire and Ing started to organize the pilgrimage at that same time. But Sister Claire's vision was to start it in Africa and come back to America. And Ing said, Claire-san, I'll be happy to work on this pilgrimage with you. But we have already left Africa. So the only way I'm going to do this is if we leave the United States and walk our way back.
Because for the African Americans, it's our homecoming. It was our homegoing, And I told her, I said, I don't know anyone of African descent that would want to go to Africa to leave it again. It's like being torn away from the mother again. We want to return to the mother. And
doing it in that way, in that direction, also reverses the energy of the enslavement and its legacy, which is racism. All of that.
That is so amazing, and the timing now, because we've always known, I mean, if we're paying attention, that white supremacy is tearing this country apart, and nothing is ever going to work until that and other atrocities that I don't need to name here. But right now we are literally tearing ourselves apart, and white supremacy is so at the heart of it. That this moment in time, feeling called to do this, it's just so important, and that's why the United States South Africa connection is so pivotal. Wow. So this is really like a moment in history.
There's more. there's
Yeah.
more to the story, because we had these fabulous folks who were advisors to the Middle Passage pilgrimage, helping us to devise the route and introducing us to folks and getting people, all along the way to, to be in support of the pilgrimage. It was a tremendous gathering of people. However, Ouida Benin wasn't on our itinerary. Just so happened that Ing and Sister Claire were on NPR radio talking about the pilgrimage. And there was a man, Peter Sutherland, a history professor from, what's Peter's school? It's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yeah. Is it Southern?
Southern, thank you. Southern University. And he was listening and heard this about the pilgrimage. And he knew Dagbo. He had just come back from Benin, and he knew about Dagbo's mission to get us to come back. So he called the radio station, and somehow or other, they were able to put him in touch with Claire and Ing.
With me.
Called them up. Said, I just heard you on the radio, and you must go to Ouida.
I said, they're still playing that? Because we had done that interview like 6 months before.
Oh.
But you know how they repeat things, you know?
Okay.
And he was like, my name is, he's British. My name is Dr. Peter Sutherland, and I'm a history professor, and I'm writing a book. He was writing a book on world religions. And he wanted to make sure that African religions were a part of this. And so he went to Benin. Dagbo Hunem was the supreme patriarch of the Vodun religion. He comes from that lineage. And so he heard this, he was told the story how Dagbo had started making this prayer and had been doing it since 1992. And then he gets back home with that information, and then he's on the radio, listening to the radio, and he hears this Sister Claire telling her story about having this epiphany in Sri Lanka that she must go to Africa to look at the history of slavery from a spiritual standpoint. And he freaked out. He was like, oh, God. This woman. She's hurt. Because he says to me, he says, are you going to Benin? And I said, yeah, we are. And he was like, are you going to Ouida? And I said, well, I don't know. I've never heard of Ouida. I hadn't heard of Ouida. And so, and he says, well, you must go to Ouida. And my first response was, oh, here's another white man trying to tell a black person what they need to be doing in Africa. And I was like, oh, God. I says, well, I organized the U.S. I says, and someone else has done the Caribbean for us. And we have someone on the ground in Africa. Actually, she was an African-American minister, but she lived in Kenya. She was married to a Kenyan. She lived in Kenya, Dr. Phyllis Bird, and she was organizing all of West Africa for us. And so I says, well, I don't want to put any more on her plate, but she knows Benin, and so, if Ouida is on, I said, but I'm not going to call this woman and add more to, her work. No, you don't understand. You must go to Ouida. Don't you? And then he told me the Dagbo story. He said, I'm going to tell you why. And I was like, and I'm sure you are. And I'm like, who is this guy? So we're good friends today,
Right.
He says, there was the priest that I, and he explained who Dagbo was. He said, and he's been making this prayer on the beach, and he started in 1992, the same time that Sister Claire was in Sri Lanka and got the epiphany to go back to Africa to look at slavery. Don't you understand? That's why you must go. She received Dagbo's message, his prayer.
Wow.
And I was like, oh.
Wow.
I guess we're going. I said, but I don't know if we have contacts there. He says, you do now. Do you have a pen and paper? And I said, yeah. He says, write this name down. Martine de Souza. who worked. She's a priestess and an initiate, and Dagbo was her mentor, and so he had interviewed her as well, and she worked at the African Museum in Ouida. He says she's waiting for your call.
Wow.
So he had already talked to her about us, and I wrote her name down, and then we contacted Phyllis Bird. And Ouida was such a high point for many of us, but especially for Amai and I.
Wow.
And when I told Sonja the story, Sonja was like, "No, those are my people."
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My ancestors.
Wow.
Both of my parents have almost 50%.
And she's been wanting to go to
from
Benin.
Benin.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, Ouida was the exit point for enslaved Africans who came to the United States from that area. They brought them down from like all the way up at this water town. I mean, the entire village is on water. It's beautiful there. And walked them all down to Ouida, because Ouida is on the ocean.
Yeah.
And this is where, their departure point is.
Yeah.
And it's also my family's ancestral home on my mother's side
Wow.
as well. Yeah, there were sights and sounds and smells that were so familiar to me from my childhood, especially from the time when my mother was deathly ill when I was about 8 years old. She almost died, but we were able to get a medicine woman from down home, they would say, which was South Carolina, the low country of South Carolina. And she came and brought with her and packages coming with twigs and branches and all kinds of stuff, stones and things. They turned our shed kitchen into an apothecary.
Yeah.
And so those same smells of the things that they were cooking up, teas and stuff, things to bathe my mother's body in, all of that was right there in Ouida when I got there. It was like, pow! I'm like, oh, I know this place.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so when we had the opportunity for the divination in the sacred forest, I asked the question, are my ancestors Vodun? And when the priest came back with the information, he said, several of you are Vodunzi, meaning children of the Vodun. I took that as an affirmative answer to my question, because no one could hear my question. You speak silently into the stone what your question is.
Wow.
And then they take those questions and divine the answers. And so it was tremendous.
Wow.
It was absolutely tremendous.
Something. I want to make a correction. The place, what was the name of it? The water place.
The water place.
We didn't go there, but we just
No, we
watched the
didn't go
film.
there.
No, I'm telling her, we didn't go there, but we watched the film about it. Those people weren't taken from there. They were like the Maroons.
You're right.
They escaped.
Oh.
You're right. Thank
And
you.
and they have a beautiful tale about it. Remember that?
Right. I remember we were watching
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Right.
there's a beautiful documentary,
It's called High on the Hog.
High on the
Oh,
Hog.
right.
And
Yes,
it's
I like to
about
watch that.
African
And the first
cooking,
one talks about
right.
African American cooking.
Oh my goodness. Okay, now I'm gonna make sure to watch that.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. Ingrid.
yeah,
You're
yeah. They
absolutely right.
escaped. They
You're
they
absolutely
had been
right.
were going to be captured and taken to Ouida to be put on those ships, and they escaped.
They escaped.
And they live on the water. They built these houses,
Wow.
kind of like what
Like
they have in
in Venice.
Thailand
Oh.
or
Floating.
houses are on stilts, and their transportation is boats.
Wow.
And everybody has a boat. The children have their own boat. The father has his own boat, and the mother has her
a
own boat because everybody's busy all
Moving
during the
around.
day.
Mhm.
And
So
you
they
can't
were
walk
able to
anywhere,
escape.
you know. So they were able to escape, just like the Maroons in Jamaica
Right.
and the Caribbean, who went up in the mountains
mountains.
and never were caught.
Thank you for that, Ed.
Amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that wisdom's going to be very important as coastlines are flooded. Like, how are we going to live when there's water everywhere?
There you go.
Yeah.
And they have
You already know
figured
how.
out
You already know how.
a way.
Yeah.
They're ahead of the.
I